Dad's Army, the iconic British comedy series, has captured the hearts of millions since it first aired in the late 1960s. With its charming characters and witty performances, the show brought endless laughter to audiences. But behind the scenes, beyond the laughter and applause, lay heartbreaking and tragic stories, fates far more dramatic than anything seen on screen. From sudden, tragic accidents that claimed lives, to incurable illnesses and mysterious, untimely deaths that left the public in shock, the real lives of the Dad's Army cast were filled with sorrow and hardship. They devoted themselves to bringing joy to others, yet many of them faced struggles that were anything but comedic. Join us as we uncover the untold stories, the hidden struggles, and the painful realities they endured. Through their trials and triumphs, we honor the legacy they left behind, one that continues to resonate with fans and the world of entertainment to this day. Arthur Lowe was born in 1915, a man whose stern demeanor and commanding presence made him perfect for the role of Captain George Mainwaring, the pompous yet well-meaning leader of the Wilmington-on-Sea Home Guard. A veteran of the stage and screen, Lowe became a household name with Dad's Army, 1968 to 1977, but behind the scenes, he struggled with health issues and an increasingly troubled personal life. His marriage to actress Joan Cooper was known to be difficult, marked by her domineering personality and his frequent escapes into work and alcohol. His later years were plagued by illness. He suffered from narcolepsy and eventually a stroke that severely affected his mobility and speech. In 1982, just before a stage performance in Birmingham, Lowe suffered a major stroke, collapsing in his dressing room. He died soon after at the age of 66, leaving behind a legacy of laughter but a life filled with silent struggles. Ian Lavender, born in 1946, was the youngest member of the Dad's Army cast, forever remembered as the naive, mother-dominated Private Frank Pike, whose youthful innocence made him the butt of Mainwaring's scoldings. Unlike many of his co-stars, Lavender had the benefit of time on his side, but his life was not without hardships. His early success in Dad's Army led to typecasting, and he struggled to break free from Pike's shadow. His personal life was marked by difficulty. His first marriage ended in heartbreak, and he battled serious health issues, including cancer and a heart attack in later years. Despite these struggles, he remained active in acting, appearing in shows like EastEnders and embracing his legacy as one of the last surviving members of the platoon. Though he faced brushes with death, Lavender has endured, a survivor among the ghosts of Wilmington-on-Sea, carrying the memories of his comrades long after they were gone. Eric Chitty was born in 1907, a man whose frail frame and bespectacled, scholarly appearance made him a natural fit for roles of timid bureaucrats and eccentric clerks. In Dad's Army, he made brief but memorable appearances as Mr. Clerk, embodying the kind of mild-mannered, paper-pushing official that Mainwaring and his men so often encountered. Chitty's life, however, was far from the quiet and orderly world of his characters. A lifelong lover of theater, he co-founded the Cambridge Festival Theatre but struggled financially for much of his career. His home life was relatively stable, though the pressures of an inconsistent acting career weighed on him. As he aged, his health deteriorated, yet he continued working, determined to remain on stage and screen for as long as possible. In 1977, at the age of 70, Chitty passed away after a long illness, leaving behind a career defined by quiet brilliance rather than stardom. John Le Mesurier, born in 1912, brought to life the effortlessly charming and unflappable Sergeant Arthur Wilson, a man of quiet wit and aristocratic nonchalance. In reality, his life was far from the serene composure of his on-screen persona. His marriage to comedienne Hattie Jacques, though initially happy, turned sour as she embarked on an affair while he suffered in silence. Always the gentleman, Le Mesurier even moved into the guest room while Jacques' lover stayed in their home. He later found love again with Joan Mallon, but his health began to deteriorate due to years of heavy drinking. Diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver, Le Mesurier faced his fate with characteristic humor and resignation. His final days were spent reflecting on a career filled with quiet triumphs and a life marked by both love and heartache. He passed away in 1983 at the age of 71, leaving behind a bittersweet legacy, adored by audiences, yet haunted by personal sorrow. Alfred Thomas, born in 1921, was a late addition to Dad's Army, appearing as Private Cheeseman, a mild-mannered journalist roped into the Home Guard. Though his time on the show was short-lived, his career in British television was long and varied. Thomas had an unmistakable presence. His distinct Welsh accent and expressive features made him a sought-after character actor. Yet behind the scenes, his life was far less fortunate. Despite steady work, true fame eluded him, and he often took on minor roles simply to make ends meet. His personal life was equally unsteady, marked by periods of loneliness and professional frustration. His health declined rapidly in his later years, and in 1990, he passed away at the age of 69. His contributions to British television, though often overlooked, remain a testament to the hard-working character actors who built the golden age of sitcoms. Clive Dunn was born in 1920, and though he spent much of his career playing elderly characters, his own life was anything but frail and slow-paced. As Lance Corporal Jack Jones, the excitable butcher with a penchant for shouting, "Don't panic," Dunn became one of Dad's Army's most beloved figures. But his real-life experiences were far from comedic. During World War II, he was captured by German forces in Greece and spent several years in a prisoner of war camp. This harrowing ordeal left its scars, though he rarely spoke of it. His marriage to actress Priscilla Morgan was steady, yet he carried the weight of past traumas with him. Unlike many of his co-stars, Dunn lived to a ripe old age, but in his final years, he faced declining health. He retired to Portugal, where he lived out his later days in relative seclusion. In 2012, he succumbed to complications from a surgical procedure following a fall, passing away at the age of 92, his life, filled with both laughter and struggle, finally coming to a quiet close. James Beck, born in 1929, was the youthful energy of Dad's Army, bringing to life Private Joe Walker, the lovable Cockney spiv always ready with a dodgy deal. His star was on the rise, and many believed he would go on to have a long and illustrious career. But fate had other plans. Unlike the older cast members, Beck was a man in his prime when disaster struck. Off-screen, his life was marred by personal demons. His heavy drinking, exacerbated by the pressures of fame, took a toll on his health. In 1973, at just 44 years old, he collapsed suddenly due to pancreatitis and kidney failure. His condition deteriorated rapidly, and within a few weeks, he was gone. His untimely death shocked his colleagues and robbed British television of a bright talent who had so much more to give. The role of Walker was never recast, and his absence in later seasons left a noticeable void, a silent tribute to the man who had brought such charisma and life to the series. Arnold Ridley was born in 1896, a man whose gentle portrayal of Private Charles Godfrey, the kindly yet frail former draper, endeared him to millions. But behind his soft-spoken character was a past filled with pain and suffering. A veteran of World War I, Ridley was severely wounded in the Battle of the Somme, leaving him with lifelong injuries and recurring nightmares of the trenches. His hands, badly damaged, never fully recovered, and he suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder long before it was widely understood. His personal life, too, was marked by struggles. His first two marriages ended in failure, and he found true companionship only later in life with his third wife, Althea Parker. Despite his physical frailty, he remained dedicated to his craft, even as his health declined. In his final years, dementia took hold, further clouding his memories of a turbulent past. He passed away in 1984 at the age of 88, a man whose real-life heroism and quiet endurance outshone even the warmth he brought to Dad's Army. Frank Williams, born in 1931, brought a touch of pious absurdity to Dad's Army as the well-meaning but hapless Reverend Timothy Farthing. Off-screen, his life was far less humorous. Williams was a deeply private man, never marrying, and he lived much of his life alone. While he maintained close friendships with his Dad's Army colleagues, he often struggled with a sense of isolation, exacerbated by the unpredictable nature of the acting world. His career was sporadic, and despite occasional appearances in later years, he never quite escaped the shadow of his most famous role. In his later life, he suffered from declining health but remained active in fan events, finding solace in the continued admiration of Dad's Army devotees. He passed away in 2022 at the age of 90, his life marked not by scandal or great tragedy, but by the quiet loneliness that often comes with a life spent in the periphery of fame. Edward Sinclair was born in 1914, a man whose face became synonymous with exasperation as Verger Maurice Yeatman, the self-important, perpetually flustered church official in Dad's Army. Off-screen, his life was less comedic. Though he had steady work in television and theater, he was never truly famous beyond his role in the series, and he often worried about what would come next. His personal life was largely private, though he was known to be a devoted husband and father. However, his later years were overshadowed by declining health and anxiety about his career's future as Dad's Army came to an end. In 1977, just 2 years after the show wrapped, Sinclair suffered a massive heart attack and died at the age of 63. His sudden passing shocked his colleagues, many of whom had only recently worked alongside him, and it was a grim reminder of how fleeting success could be. John Laurie was born in 1897, his commanding voice and piercing gaze making him the perfect choice for the dour, doom-laden Private James Fraser. A Shakespearean actor of great repute, Laurie had graced both stage and screen, working with legends such as Laurence Olivier. Yet, for all his dramatic triumphs, he was forever tethered to the role of Fraser, his catchphrase, "We're doomed," becoming his most recognized contribution to popular culture. Off-screen, he was a deeply private and often melancholic man, prone to bouts of introspection and frustration with the limitations of television fame. His marriage to Una Todd endured, but his restless spirit and obsessive dedication to work often kept him distant from domestic bliss. As the years wore on, illness crept into his life, and in 1980, at the age of 83, he succumbed to the effects of emphysema. His passing marked the loss of one of Britain's most distinctive voices, a man who had once played kings but was remembered, above all, as the ever-gloomy Fraser, prophesying the doom that eventually came for him too. Bill Pertwee was born in 1926, his sharp tongue and brash delivery making him the perfect choice for Chief Warden Hodges, the bad-tempered air raid warden who was forever at odds with Captain Mainwaring and his platoon. His real life, however, was not marked by the same bombastic confidence as his on-screen persona. Orphaned at a young age, Pertwee grew up in difficult circumstances, struggling to find his footing in the entertainment industry. Though he eventually carved out a successful career in comedy, particularly with Dad's Army and other radio and television work, he often felt overshadowed by his more famous co-stars. His marriage to Marion McLeod was stable, but he battled periods of self-doubt and frustration with the limits of his career. In his later years, illness and frailty took their toll, and he largely withdrew from public life. He passed away in 2013 at the age of 86, quietly fading away much like his character, a man forever destined to be in the background of something bigger than himself. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from Dad's Army, and who do you miss the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to catch the latest videos.